Good morning, what's up guys? I wasn't planning on doing a video today. I've been trying to get myself to do more structured stuff, but hey, sometimes you come up with an idea, so I thought I'd just hit record. I've become a bit more of a sort of morning person these days. It's like 7 a.m. and like I said, I did a video the other day just talking about like workflow and how to stay fast, and one of the things I mentioned there was setting aside time to I call it playtime, and I have a little slot in the morning that I can just mess around and try new things. And this is when I figure out stuff like this. So I wanted to just share this with you all. I think it's a pretty cool little trick that you can do. So I got my coffee, let's get stuck in. Right, and we're in Pigments again. Now, I did not know this, but you can use the Granular engine as a modulation source in a number of different ways. It gives you some really, really interesting stuff. It works really well as a random source. You can use it as sort of an LFO as well, also random again. But the best part is that it does all of this polyphonically. So you get some really, really detailed modulation out of this when used in this way. So what I'm going to start off with here is a completely blank patch. I'm going to quickly just stick this wavetable into a saw here so you can hear that a little bit better. And I'm going to bring this down because I'm going to just kind of show this off by modulating that cutoff there. Let's go over to the sample engine, turn that on. I'm going to just bring in a piano just so we can hear what's going on. And I'm going to just bypass this filter 1 there quickly so we can hear the output of that piano. So we know about the Granular engine. Turn that on, and essentially you've got a number of controls that is going to generate a playhead, which is going to play back the sample, but they can overlap each other. They can move around in different ways. We'll just play that back. That's the envelope there for the sound. So if we hit triangle, and then that's going to give you like a little segment that you can hear exactly what's happening with those grains. They're like a particle generator, basically. Cool thing though is you can hear that they're not synced to each other. They are re-triggering with each note. Okay, so we can use that as a trigger source for modulation. What we're going to do is we're going to come down to the bottom here. I'm going to use this function generator 1. I'm going to turn it, we'll leave it on loop mode, but you can also have that as a one shot because we're going to re-trigger that all the time. So you can see that's set to poly KB currently. So each time I hit a note, it restarts. We're going to change that now to restart on the Granular engine. And this is not an audio signal, it's a control signal, and it's sending a trigger each time it generates a new grain. It's going to send the trigger to our function generator. So if we hold down a note, you can see what's happening now. It's re-triggering each time that piano sounds. Cool, so now we can take this and assign this to some sort of control. So let's go with function generator 1. We can add that to our filter cutoff, for example. There you go. But like I said, it's polyphonic, so let's just turn down this one quickly. Let's set that to parallel. So we've got exactly the same movement now, but only on the filter, not on the actual sound itself. So let's play around with that some more. Watch what happens now when we start messing around with some of the controls. So we've got density, obviously going to be the speed of the triggers. This can be set to sync as well, which is cool, but I think it's more interesting when you're using this as a random kind of source this. But we've also got randomization of these parameters. So we can, for instance, decide that we want to randomize the density. Now, these other ones are really going to kind of affect the actual sound of the grain. And because we're only using the trigger source here, it's not really going to affect the sound of the filter that we have. But I'm going to show you how to get past that in just a sec too. Play around with our piano sound by, maybe smoothing that out. But we can do the same with the envelope as well. Already, that's, the basis for a pretty cool sound that you got right there. As soon as you start running that through something like some effects, maybe something like the pitch shifting delay even. Of course, you could also, all of this stuff can be modulated with other controls. So these can be kind of overlapped with each other. Let's say, for instance, we wanted to add in an additional sort of filter envelope here. We can just assign that to our cutoff there. And we could also assign that to something like the density over time, so that might get more intense as the envelope goes up. So check that out now. Pretty cool. Now, I mentioned that you can get more of that control in as well. There's another way that you can do this. Pigments doesn't make this very obvious because there isn't a list of outputs that are assigned to everything. It's not like a big mod matrix. Some of these are only available sort of in little hidden areas. So let's just start over again. We're going to just... Right, so now we've got the same thing again. We can turn on the granular oscillator again. Now, this time around, we're not using the triggers. This time around, we can actually convert what's coming out of that oscillator into control data. But again, the cool thing is it's not summing all of the stuff up. It's basically treating each time you play a sample as its own separate audio signal, which gives you really cool polyphonic modulation again. So if we go to the Combinator here, for example, you can, for instance, go here and assign engine 2 as the input for the Combinator. See, we're starting to get control data in here. And we can use this envelope follower now to modify something like the filter cutoff, for example. So let's use Combinator 1. You might need to just tweak the attack and release settings slightly. Turn that one down. And you can also just bump up the input gain, it'll give you more. There we go. Now notice that this is going to be affected by all of this stuff here. So if we change the shape of the grains, for example, we're going to be changing the shape of the modulation data that we have. Can add in randomness. The width won't do anything to the control because it controls a mono signal basically, but everything else should affect how that works. And now you can modify the grains in real time as well to do some pretty interesting stuff. So if you wanted to get really, really kind of randomized organic vibes out of this, we could say, for instance, use something like the voice modulator, for example. Let's assign the voice modulator to the density. We'll assign a different voice modulator to something like the shape. And let's put that in the middle there. So now we're going to get some that are kind of reversed grains. Some of them are going to be forward playing grains. Take a listen to this now. And let's maybe just reduce that slightly. And once again, let's come out of this and just dial in some additional control so you can kind of hear it in situ with how it's meant to be played. And let's do just a little bit of, we'll just use the send here. Of course, this can be used for, whatever you want. It doesn't have to just be the filter cutoff there. You could be playing around with things like the folding, for example, and that could be assigned to something like this as well. All sorts of things you can do. Now, the last thing is you can actually bypass not using this combinator as well, because that could free up things for other stuff. There was another little thing that I actually came across, which I quite liked. If you use something like the, we'll just use a separate combinator here. Again, we'll use the envelope follow. If you bring in something like the utility, for example, utility noise, we can bring that in. You don't have to have the noise in the actual mix. But if you use something like the threshold here, for example, can generate some pretty cool random triggers from this as well. Also cool. But what I wanted to just show you is that if you're doing stuff like that with a combinator, for example, and you want to kind of just free up some of these combinators, you don't want to be running all the grains through that. There are certain places that you can bypass using a combinator and the envelope follower too. But again, it's not obvious. So the filters, for example, can actually take a audio input signal as well. So very much in the same way, if we wanted to get this grain output to modify our filter here, without using the combinator, you just have to make sure that you're using one of the analog models. The classic filters do not allow you to do this. So you would need to come down to, I believe the clusters should give you that option. Yes, there you go. So the cluster ones, I don't think any of these will, no, see, any of the surgeon ones won't work, the formant ones won't work, but if you are using one of the analog models, which would be the cluster filters, along with any of these ones, the Jupiter 8, the SEM, whatever, these ones will give you the option to input a mod source into that filter. Which means you can do that kind of Oberheim growliness if you're using the mod oscillator, which would be this one here. Which is pretty cool, but you can also assign that to engine 2, which would be the output of the grains. You get a bit of a different feeling here as well, because this is not going through, it's not going through the combinator now, so it's not actually getting smoothed out. This is raw audio that you're putting through this, so you get some pretty interesting kind of distorted tones. Yeah, so just bear that in mind. They're not the same doing it this way. This is raw. You're going to get all the little details from the waveform there. If you've got a spare combinator, do it via the envelope follower, but you can also otherwise, actually, I think that's going to be the only way that you can do it. I don't think any of the other ones, let's just check, a lag might give you the option for audio sources. No, okay, they don't. So none of the other ones actually give you the option to smooth things out. Other than the envelope follower. But, right, anyway, so yeah, go try that out. It's super interesting what you can do. And obviously the triggers are kind of just triggers. Those are going to be just density controls. But when you start playing around with different sample sources in here, you get very different kinds of modulation as well. And it's kind of cool to use them when using a sample in one of the engines to kind of have some sort of cohesion between that and whatever synthesized source you might be using with that too. To have them living and breathing in the same space works really nicely. Cool. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If this is useful for you, hit the like and subscribe. If you also go check the links below, you'll find you can go past the website. If you want to sign up for the mailing list there, I'm trying to do some monthly newsletters with some useful information and updates on new videos and sound banks and stuff. Otherwise, Patreon's another place that you can go and hang out. And I'll see you soon. Cheers.